Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So we just have one piece of news, but it's quite an important piece of news, and that is we have the full kind of details effectively for the upcoming Avatar comic, The Bounty Hunter and the Brewer. So we get the release date as well as the description, the synopsis. And this is exclusively from the Nerdist, so it's actually like a kind of news article kind of reveal here. From what I can see, at least on certain websites, it's not up yet, so this is a new announcement. So of course we had the cover from before. This will be the one-shot comic that basically is the quote-unquote follow-up to Azula in the Spirit Temple. So Iroh and also June is going to be the focus here. So odd combination. What is the plot? That's the kind of big thing we're looking for here. So this is just the article describing kind of some of the really obvious kind of type stuff, what we know of June from before. But here is the official description for the book here. So, deliveries to Uncle Iroh's tea house, the Jasmine Dragon, have dried up, further complicating Iroh's life. A familiar face, the bounty hunter June, has captured him in hopes of a payday large enough to set her and Nyla up for life. Who hired June, and what do they want with the former Dragon of the West? In an epic trek across the Earth Kingdom, Iroh must confront a part of his past while June considers her future. But however things go, someone's got to free the tea. So, interesting stuff there. We'll come back to that in just a second. The remainder of the details is basically just that we get the release date. So the Tuesday release date, the bookstore/digital release date is going to be May 14th, 2024. And then of course the following day in comic book stores on May 15th, 2024. So this is basically, 6-7 months on from Azula in the Spirit Temple. Longer than usual gap between books, but maybe a little earlier than we were expecting, given I think what the kind of preview at SDCC was. So yeah, standard. Other than that, the standard stuff is here, and then they just sort of confirmed that the creative team is as expected: Faith Aaron Hicks, Peter Wortman, Adele Matera. It'll be 80 pages long, but realistically that's 80 pages including the kind of credits page, so it'll be 72 pages of actual content. They confirm again the whole written in consultation with Mike and Brian, and that it is a one-shot story. But this is where our focus, of course, is. What is the description, and does it give us any information to go on here? So, something has stopped supplies coming in so Iroh can make tea. Okay, why has that happened? And then, just somehow, June captures him. So how does that exactly happen? Is he out there like trying to get a delivery in and June kind of gets him kind of on the outskirts of Ba Sing Se or something like that? Or does she like take him from the Jasmine Dragon? Either way, it's a pretty impressive kind of thing from June that she manages to do this. Now, of course, she has Nyla with her, so one kind of lash of that tongue and Iroh's probably going down here. But, Iroh is extremely skilled, so something has to catch him kind of completely by surprise here. But we know basically he kind of has a bit of a weakness when it comes to June, so he wouldn't immediately maybe be on edge around her. But either way, the idea is that this kind of puts the two together. She has captured him to try and get a payday because he is this notable person. He does have this legacy to him as this former general, Dragon of the West, and a variety of other things that we don't entirely exactly know about. Like maybe even the fact that he's the Order of the White Lotus. People knowing about that, some people might be against that. There's a bunch of ideas here. So they're setting up the mystery of who hired June. So it's not just that she's really decided to do this on her own. Someone has specifically hired her to be like, hey, we want you to capture Iroh for us. Who is that? What do they want with the former... What do they... Now, I assume that's just there to avoid saying, like, he or her, and maybe doesn't necessarily mean a group. But it's an interesting one to see how that exactly goes. So we get an epic trek across the Earth Kingdom. which kind of fits in line with this. They're going to be on Nyla, traveling to kind of wherever the person who hired actually is. So we get Iroh must confront a part of his past, while June considers her future. So obviously this is the whole idea of June's like previous appearances in the show. So she's basically had two. One was, of course, when she was hired by effectively the villains at that time, Zuko and Iroh, to kind of hunt Aang down. And then the second time, she was hired by basically Team Avatar to find Iroh. So straight away you have sort of one good, kind of one bad appearance from June. Putting her somewhere in the middle, which makes sense for a bounty hunter. She goes where the money is. But in a post-war era, what does she actually want to do? And you wonder, like, does the Iroh kind of aspect of his past, does that relate to June? Does he know something about June's past? Or is it more specifically about who hired June? They are the really interesting questions that we have here. Obviously, the net result of this at the end is that we need Iroh's tea supplies to not dry up anymore, get them back. And we'll see kind of what happens here. So this is a bit of an interesting one, of course, because June is this bounty hunter character, has a Shirshu, based on the other lore which I've talked about in previous videos. We do know that stuff like that her father was a bounty hunter as well. That's from like the old Nickelodeon website, and that he was the one who actually gave Nyla to her. Maybe this kind of relates into some of that stuff, like might it be some other bounty hunter that relates back to that? And what exactly is going to happen in all of this, because it's as many have said before, it is a weird combination of characters because of the nature of like the way they kind of did kind of what the dynamic between them was in previous episodes, where the first one you probably don't want them to focus on too much, the idea that he likes June in some way. They obviously played it up mostly for jokes, but it still is a little bit like, I don't know if we want to come back to that. So I don't know, they might just really quickly reference that like right at the start of the book and then immediately get past it, because there's more serious stuff at play here. Because that, and that's the whole point here, you have to create a proper dynamic between these two characters that's different than just, hey, remember that one time from that one episode we encountered each other. So, you know, addressing what significant part of his past is being kind of focused on here. And then, yeah, what does June want to do going forward? Is this trying to get out of the bounty hunter game? And, you know, what is it that she wants to accomplish not on that side of things? Like, so that there's where you really have your sort of like new dynamic in the book, is just June's goals as a character. And I think you would just say in general, properly characterizing her here. Because, like, based on what we've seen before, she seems to kind of enjoy this life, hunting people down. Especially when Team Avatar found her, she seemed to kind of be in her element. Beating people up, controlling the situation there in that kind of bar or whatever it was that they found her in. So what's the plan for the future for her? That is an interesting kind of part of this. So obviously we see here she wants a payday large enough to set her and Nyla up for life, suggesting that she does want to get out of the game. That she what exactly she wants to use that money for going forward, we don't know, but not be a bounty hunter anymore is an interesting thing. So it does set the stage for Iroh giving advice to June, who is still this like relatively young character, of course. We don't know exactly how old she is, but a young character who could use the advice of Iroh, especially if Iroh has some sort of a dynamic with, you know, things that relate to June's past or even his own past. That's interesting. I don't think it is a description that kind of gives us like too much sort of like meat in a way to get into here and properly have too much of a discussion. So I think this is unfortunately one of those ones that probably will take us getting maybe preview pages or knowing the way things typically go. Like if I do get a review copy for this book, which based on the release date, review copies, if they do it as early as they did with Azula, it is like 4 months before release. It might be like January or February for review copies. So, that's still a while away. So not too much to speculate on. This feels like it's one of those ones where it's just going to be about the page to page dynamic between the two characters. June is a memorable minor character, but definitely needs development. And then Iroh is a fan favorite character, but he does have all of this mystery to his past, where like he seems to be experienced in a little bit of everything almost in the world, but we don't know the details about so much of that, because like you have situations like in the show where like he mentions like he has some sort of a history with like the rough rhinos. Now I'd be a little bit surprised if the rough rhinos were the kind of focus here. Typically, I think if your plot results in and the reveal is that the rough rhinos were behind it all, that feels like the most like, okay, fine, Colonel Monkey and the others, they're okay. I don't really think that's the case, but the idea is that this is a character who is connected to a variety of different people here. So that's the big thing here. Like, confront a part of his past. Like, what are the things from his past that he really needs to address? Like, there's obviously him and his son, Lieutenant. There could be some way through some sort of a relationship with him and June for him to eventually get to the point where he talks about his son. Maybe June at this kind of maybe crossroads in her life causes the discussion to be about like, in my life, one of the things was dealing with what Lieutenant wanted to do going forward, like about, is he going to follow in my footsteps or someone else? Iroh can give advice maybe based on that. That would be a way to do one of the big dynamics, which I really want to know more about, which is the Iroh-Lieutenant relationship. Obviously, there's the kind of brother relationship, him and Ozai, but I'd be very surprised if in this book they managed to get around to that. Otherwise, like, because he is Ordered the White Lotus and has basically studied the various different nations, there's a way to kind of connect this to a little bit of everything. Now, they're focusing on the idea of it being a trek across the Earth Kingdom specifically. So is this going to relate to, like, Ba Sing Se specifically? Hard to exactly say what they could or rather couldn't do with that sort of thing. So, interesting stuff, I think. This is one of those books where like it was unfortunate that like the expectations for the convention where this book was initially announced at were completely about show us the Korra comic, that this being announced almost instead didn't quite get the attention, because again, it is a weird combination of characters and it is not maybe the big Avatar story that we want. But given that we are focused on this at the moment, there is potential in a book like this. And in a way, I think this is showing you the other side of doing a really strong one-shot comic, whereas Azula in the Spirit Temple is a real character piece. This actually has the chance to do that, but for multiple characters, and address maybe not the most important elements of like these characters, but some aspects of that. So I'm going to pretty much wrap it up there and kind of see what the comments have to say about this. I think I caught this announcement very, very early, so I think a lot of people should be experiencing this, the details of this pretty soon. But definitely in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on this. What do you think the plot is going to be about here between June and Iroh? What's the whole past situation for Iroh? What is June kind of planning to do going into the future? They're the big questions. Also, any thoughts on the May release date and stuff like that. But, we're still waiting for other stuff to happen. But yes, that has been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.